We are back on FLOOWANDEREEZE for Attribute 4, and in this match you can see our hand isn't that great. I mean, we are going second and we do have Dark Ruler evenly, which is good, but the opponent reveals it on Rikka, so we don't really need Dark Ruler for that, but the evenly match will come in handy. The opponent starts pretty strongly with the Concon and Petal in hand already, going for Tranquility, which will tribute one of our monsters since the Concon is on the field to revive up to 2 plant monsters in their graveyard. They got Mood On extension into Glamour. Glamour will likely search Princess and Primula. We know how Rikka goes. If you watched the previous video or any videos on my channel, you know that I've played this deck and I obviously know how it works. So that helps in understanding what I need to do to break the board. The problem though is the Rikka Princess is going to be used to be made into a Strenna. And then the Strenna is going to detach that Princess. Whatever they revive, it doesn't matter. It's just extension for follow-up for next turn. But the Princess in the graveyard will now be able to tribute either my monster or the Strenna in order to negate a monster effect. If I draw like a Robina, which I do, it can get negated by Princess. So that's bad. And then when they tribute the Strenna, if they choose to do that, they can bring out a Sacred Tree Beast for another monster negate. So the opponent was in a really good spot. It really mattered what they banished with the evenly matched when we played it. And they opt to keep Concon, probably because, you know, field spells only a 2 of, and they didn't want to risk losing one of 2 copies of their field spell. And it is a valuable resource, but not keeping the Strenna is what won us this game, because now they have no monster negate. Their Princess in the graveyard is no longer alive because there's no Rikka card on field for them to use it with. And they won't be able to use the Strenna effect when it's tributed to bring out a Sacred Tree Beast for another monster negate. So with that, the Dimensional Fissure will also shut down Rikka, because anything now that leaves the field in terms of monsters will be banished, and Rikka needs their cards in the graveyard. So this combination of evenly matched Dimensional Fissure and top decking the Robina really won us that match, and the opponent realized it and scooped it up. Alright, we were able to top deck out of a bricked hand last match, and this match we are also running in Brick City, I guess. Absolutely nothing. So all we can really do is set a call by and pass. Hopefully the opponent doesn't OTK us. They reveal it on the Vernusylph Earth deck, and they also seem to have no extension. So they just summon the Vernusylph card here, set 2 back row along with the Corolla, and pass turn. So I guess that's how it goes. We draw into Dimensional Fissure, which is actually good against the Earth deck. But I mean, I don't understand why you scoop there, because clearly I have nothing. Turn 1, I set 1 past. So if you wonder how I get like high win percentages or win streaks and stuff like that, I mean, like, people just surrender like this. I don't like to surrender if I don't have to. I mean, I like to see that you're comboing and know how to play your deck, because you'd be surprised at how many people misplay. And I can usually come back from that. I mean, I misplay too, to be fair. But anyways, I'm not going to ramble on. Yeah, we take that match somehow, and that's another bricked hand in a row, unfortunately. Right, can we break the streak of bricky hands? Not necessarily. So this opening hand doesn't look great, but we have the Pot of Extravagance at least, and this is one of the reasons why I upped this card to 3, just because you need to draw like some consistency cards if you're ever hoping to actually play with FLOOWANDEREEZE when you do run into situations like this where you brick. This is the 3rd match in a row where we've bricked. The opponent is on Beetroopers. I don't really know what they're doing here. I think they are just like doing random stuff. But we have a draw for turn, and we have the Pot of Extravagance. So 3 draws to potentially draw something to unbrick our hand with. So Call by the Grave, not really the most useful at this point, but we do draw Terraforming, and we do draw Advent of Adventure. So Terraforming for map is going to allow us to play after we activate the Advent of Adventure to banish the Snowl, which we can summon back by using Toucan, bringing it back to hand, and then summoning it to the field. So losing it isn't the end of the world. And we opt to bring Eaglin so that we can banish the Robina with map. That way we may ensure that Eaglin should resolve because it won't get Ash since it's chain blocked. That's the card we need to resolve. The Robina, if it gets Ash, it's not the end of the world. But we're now going to go ahead and bring back the Snowl and then bring out the big boss monster that usually doesn't see a lot of play. But in Attribute 4, since Empen is banned, Snowl is an awesome go-to. And with Snowl, I think you want to play a little differently because you want extra resources in your hand so you can banish cards for the quick effect, eclipse your opponent's field, Book of Moon your opponent's whole field. But you see us do a weird play here, tributing over both our monsters in order to bring out the Ryza and not bouncing the Ryza back to hand. Now, I'll explain this just briefly. So with Snowl, the reason I summoned Snowl was so that I could do the additional 3 normal summons, but just putting it back in the banish pile gives it a valid target for Toucan, so Toucan remains live next turn, because I don't have Trap, but I do have Map if they normal summon. Ryza stacks their deck so that I know what they're going to draw and limits their combo extension potential. And since I have D-Fissure up, when I tributed the Snowl, it goes straight to Banish Pile. I don't need to cycle through Street to banish it from Graveyard and then Toucan to bring it back. So that was the thinking there. I do play 2 Ryza in this deck list, which I will link in the description. So if you're wondering why I kept the Ryza on field, you just lost your Ryza cycle. No, I didn't, because I play a second one that I'll search out. Having one on board just gives me some board presence and allows me to set up the opponent the way that I want, so I know what they're top decking, and kind of keeps them locked down. So on normal summon, I am going to resolve my effect, search for the second Ryza, and keep them locked. And on this Ryza summon, I think that I do opt to bring it back to hand. But the reason that you don't bring out Snowl in this instance is because, well, Snowl is not like Empin, where you summon Snowl and then get to summon again. Snowl is more useful on your turn for the first effect because you have to activate that effect in order to summon 3 more times. I can't use that effect during my opponent's turn. However, the opponent realizes that their deck is being completely stacked and they just surrender. I really may have been winning too much, and the game was just like, no, we're going to keep giving you brick hands until you lose. So Pot of Prosperity unbricks my hand potentially, but the opponent has Ash. I checked their deck list afterwards. They played 2 Ash. So, you know, they drew 1 of 2, which, you know, it happens. You can't really get mad at that. We do have a good going second hand, though, because, you know, if they're like on Adamancipator or something and we don't get OTK'd, which probably we would get OTK'd, we could Dark Ruler evenly match their board. So I'm not necessarily giving up hope just yet. But they're on Earth Machines, which, you know, if you leave an open board and they go second, yeah, you're going to get OTK'd because Gustav is going to deal 2,000 damage. They're going to go into Rail Cannon here, Juggernaut, and then that will detach material to gain 2,000 attack, 6,000 attack. That's going to attack me for game, so no chance there, and there is my first defeat in Attribute 4 with FLOOWANDEREEZE, actually. The Master Duel algorithm was satisfied in me taking that loss, so in going first now, I actually draw an amazing hand. This is like literally everything you could possibly ask for. We have the Duality to start off, and we grab the Toucan. We've got Hard Drawn Map. We play 3 Trap now, or in this build I was playing 3 Trap, and we hard draw that. So we have all of the perfect cards to set things up and have follow-up during our opponent's turn. I wasn't worried about Imperm or Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom didn't indicate the opponent had Ash when I activated Duality. So we opted to banish the Unexplored Winds with Map so we can bring it back with Toucan. This allows us to have all 3 power spells in rotation, which is pretty strong. We search for Snowl here, and we're going to opt to bring this to the field. With Snowl on board, I think I mentioned this in the previous clip where I summoned Snowl, you want to have as many materials in your hand to banish a card during your opponent's turn, so that, you know, if I only brought back 1 bird here and I had to banish that 1 bird, I'd have no follow-up, right? So I do want to bring both the birds back, so keep that in mind when you're playing Snowl. Otherwise, you won't be able to use the effect to eclipse the opponent's field without putting yourself at a disadvantage. So I have all the power spells in rotation: Map, Unexplored Winds, and the Dreaming Town. The opponent reveals that they're on Infernoids, and they're going to continue to stack their graveyard in their hand with the cards they need in order to summon them. So we have to be very careful here in reading these cards. One of them, when special summoned, will destroy monsters. Another one will destroy all spells and traps. And then another one, I think, is like a searcher. So upon them banishing the one that I think destroys all monsters, I'm like, I think the spells and traps are more useful. So I'm going to activate Dreaming Town and opt to go through a Ryza cycle and stack the deck with the one that destroys all spells and traps on the field. So when this card is special summon, destroy. This one is destroy all monsters. Sorry, I think this is the one that destroys all spells and traps. Yeah, when this card is special summon, you can destroy all spells and traps on the field, so except the Infernoid cards, basically. So keep in mind that, you know, this card can be summoned from the hand or graveyard, so it's in the graveyard. They can special summon it and wipe my back row, and that's what I'm going to try to prevent here. So we're going to do Dreaming Town, summon Eaglin only, search Apex, and then go ahead, activate Unexplored Winds, tribute off one of their spell cards, and our Eaglin to summon Ryza. Now, why did I do it this way? Because again, when you summon Ryza off of Unexplored Winds, you actually don't get the effect to return Ryza to hand. So I can only stack the opponent's deck with a card in their graveyard, a card on the field, and Ryza has to stay on field. However, they haven't normal summoned yet, and we have Map still to trigger. So if I summon Robina, I can use Unexplored Winds again and tribute one of their cards and the Robina for an Apex if they opt to normal summon. They don't. They commit everything to the Infernoid card to destroy all monsters, and that's totally fine, because these monsters being destroyed is no problem. Because we have another Ryza, we can always banish the Snowl with Stree and recur it with the Toucan. The Toucan, when it's destroyed, will get banished, so we can recur that with either of these cards. However, when the opponent summons this, we're going to be able to quick effect banish a card from our hand, which is again why you want to bring back both the birds, flip their field face down, so now we're not threatened, and despite our cards being destroyed, we're totally good because we have map and we have unexplored winds. So you can see why it was important for me to activate the Dreaming Town and prevent them from bringing back the Infernoid monster that destroyed the spells and traps, because then we would have had very little follow-up next turn. I mean, we still have Robina, but, you know, this is much stronger. We can out the opponent's whole board with unexplored winds now, and I think the opponent realized that, and they scoop. So, you know, a good hand, Floowandereeze is very hard to stop.